And good morning, Nigeria. Today we focus on the struggles and triumphs of the Nigerian worker.
You know, today is Workers' Day. Some say it's International Workers' Day, of course, symbolically commemorated across the world in honor of workers.
And for many Nigerian workers, days like this come with reflection. You know, it's a quiet prayer that their efforts will count for something, and may our labor not be in vain.
Indeed, may our labor not be in vain. And from Yen Ray and I to all those behind the scenes and across the Nigerian Television Authority, we represent just a fraction, a tiny fraction of the Nigerian workforce, people who show up daily, even on a day like this, and just to keep things moving. Yeah,
we have to keep moving and praying that it gets better, right? And it actually cuts across all sectors, you know, media, agriculture, healthcare, education, manufacturing, technology. The list is very long and the contribution unmistakable.
Now, over time, the labor movement in Nigeria has had to push for better wages, improved working conditions, and stronger protection for workers.
I think you should talk about improved wages like twice. You should mention that twice. That's like top on the list. But when you look at realities today, many would say the conditions not always reflect the effort being put in.
Now, with the minimum wage now at 70,000 naira, sounds big, and the cost of living still rising, many homes are under pressure.
When you talk about 70,000 naira and the cost of fuel is about 1,400, I mean, you can just do the maths. Engagements between government and organized labor have continued, but for a lot of workers, the expectation goes beyond negotiations. It's about what changes in their daily lives.
And then there is the bigger question of welfare, job security, and how much protection the average worker really has.
So today we take a look at the state of the Nigerian worker, where we are, and what needs to change. Victor, what more do you want to add to that?
Well, anything you say, I'm in sync.
Okay, I'm Yen Ray John. Happy new month, you know, to everyone out there, and of course, happy Workers' Day to all workers in Nigeria.
And I am Victor Azu. We will be. All right, good morning, Nigeria is live on the network service of the NTA. Now, as a prompt for our conversation, which is of course on the all-important subject of Workers' Day, let's take this background report, and it is put together by Ibrahim Belogunda.
Workers' Day in Nigeria is celebrated annually on May 1st, serving as a national moment to recognize the contributions of workers across all sectors of the economy. It is observed as a public holiday and is traditionally marked by rallies, speeches, and organized labor activities led by major unions such as the Nigerian Labour Congress (NLC) and the Trade Union Congress (TUC). These events provide an important platform for workers to voice their concerns, celebrate achievements, and push for improved working conditions, fair wages, and stronger labor protections. Over the years, Workers' Day has evolved into not just a ceremonial occasion, but also a critical forum for dialogue between workers, employers, and government. In 2026, the celebration comes at a time when many Nigerian workers are grappling with economic pressures, including inflation. As a result, the day is being used by labor groups and stakeholders to advocate for policies that promote job creation, social security, and economic stability. Attention is also being drawn to the need for inclusive policies that address both formal and informal sector workers. Government officials typically use the occasion to address the nation, highlighting ongoing reforms and initiatives aimed at strengthening the workforce, improving productivity, and ensuring better welfare for workers. At the same time, civil society organizations continue to stress the importance of safeguarding workers' rights, promoting workplace safety, and ensuring accountability across industries. Beyond its economic and political significance, Workers' Day also represents unity and solidarity among Nigerians. It underscores the dignity of labor and the indispensable role workers play in national development. Cultural display parades and community engagements add a celebratory dimension, reinforcing a shared commitment to building a more equitable and prosperous society. As Nigeria continues to navigate its development path, Workers' Day in 2026 stands as a powerful reminder of the resilience, dedication, and determination of its workforce. Against this backdrop, what are the biggest challenges Nigerian workers are facing in 2026? What steps has the government taken to improve working conditions? And how safe are Nigerian workplaces today, particularly in high-risk industries? These and more are the issues that guests on Good Morning Nigeria will be exploring as we take a closer look at the significance of Workers' Day 2026.
Many thanks, Ibrahim Bello Gunda, for the background reports. Now joining us for the conversation as we discuss 2026 Workers' Day, which is today. We have with us a key leader as far as the labor movement is concerned, Comrade Isa Remo, DG and CEO, Michael Umodu, National Institute of Labor Studies. Many thanks for joining us, sir. It's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, happy May Day.
Same to you.
To all Nigerian workers in particular. And I want to say good morning, Nigerian workers.
All right, let me also introduce here in the studio Ada Mbanaso, Chairperson, Pengasan Women Commission and Security Trade Union Congress of Nigeria, TUC. A pleasure to have you join us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning, and it's my pleasure to have me.
When Nigerians look at you, they say Nigerian workers are not doing badly.
Actually, we're not doing badly because we cannot forgo ourselves, irrespective of the economic crunch and the hardship we're facing. We have to stand tall and then, uphold ourselves to live.
When you talk about stand tall, what does that really mean? Stand tall, how? When the average Nigerian worker cannot afford basic things, so how do you stand tall?
Okay, the hardship is everywhere. Nigerian has learned to be adaptable. We have learned to be very resilient, irrespective of the situations or challenges we find ourselves. We always navigate to find a living. And standing tall is believing in ourselves, believing that we have all it takes to be the better Nigerian in the future, irrespective of what the political status today has, made us to be. So I believe that the faith we have in ourselves is what is keeping us.
All right, let me get to Comrade Saremo. Now, it's what we do every year. Of course, May Day, every day will come out looking as beautiful as Ada looks, and even you. But on a day like this, when workers are being celebrated, how well does that recognition match the realities, that they face daily from where you stand?
Well, Victor, once again, let me just say happy May Day. I think looking at you, you are Nigerian, you also look good. Because
for the camera.
Yeah,
for the camera.
Well, I'm not sure whether for the camera. I think not so much for the camera, for the good job you are doing. It's clear that one thing about labor is the dignity of labor. Whoever lives on a sweat, we inherently look good, regardless of the challenges that we have. In any case, May Day is meant to address these very challenges, which my comrade sister, spoke about. And I think there's a lot for us to celebrate. We're marking the 140th anniversary of this great day. It was declared in 1886. And that was in recognition of the struggle of the working men and women, all over the world. Specifically, it was in United States, Chicago. And interestingly, from textile sector, which I used to be, Bello used to be there too. This 8 hours work that we have taken for granted, it wasn't on a plant of gold. Workers used to work for 20 hours, even 22 hours. Some workers were done at work. And the workers in Chicago marched, to demand for 8 hours work. Initially 10 hours, 8 hours. It was a bitter struggle. In fact, they even executed some of the workers' leaders. And that was the Democratic America, 1886. Democratic America then did never allow for, that's almost 100 years of American Declaration of Independence. They never allow for this. So today, but it's not taken for granted, Victor and Irene, that you wake up in the morning, you come here to work for 8 hours. If you do overtime, you can be paid overtime, and I know you will do overtime all the time. Minimum wage, we've taken it for granted. In those days, so early employers didn't want to pay salaries at all. Michael Imodu, whose institute, my institute was named after, he started fighting in the railways in the 1940s, demanding for pay for the working railway men. I think largely railway men, women were not working the railway. And initially, they resisted pay properly. Then later, they were given low pay. You had to fight for high pay. So what I'm saying here is that I think we should not take today for granted. It's a day to celebrate labor. And back home, depending on what date you are looking at, we are marking more or less 46th anniversary, 46 of this great day. If you take 1980, where we used to have 2 governors, very progressive governors, may they also rest in peace. Alhaji Abubakar Rimi of Kano. Of course, you have Balarabe Musa of Kaduna. They were audacious in support of the demand of the Nigerian Labour Congress, led by the pioneer president, Alhaji Hassan Sumanu. He's still alive. He just marked his 85th birthday. He was the first to demand for, recognition of May Day as a public holiday. But the then federal government, under President Shehu Shagari, wasn't sure, but PRP went ahead. And so if you take 1980, we're now 2026. So this is more or less 46 years of this day.
Workers' Day.
But the following year, President Shehu Shagari now made it national. 1981. We used to have competitive, progressive politics. That was in those days when opposition moves, ruling party had to sit up. Second Republic was very, strong democratic system. So, and that comes to the last quick point I want to raise. Celebrating May Day also means celebrating democracy. Because it was democratic Nigeria that made it real. Military rule never accepted that. Colonial administration never allowed us to use that. So we shouldn't take democratic process for granted. But my greetings to my colleagues in the organized labor, which I used to be. I used to be vice president of NSC, that even under the military, after Shagari was overthrown, NSC, TUC stood the ground to still mark this day, in spite of the restriction. But if you take since 1999, we have returned to democracy. It has been unfettered celebration of May Day. And what today offers us is to reflect where workers are coming from. Where are we? Where should we be? And looking at Victor and Irene, I'm not sure whether you live on minimum wage. You look too good.
That's why I asked you.
You look too good to live on.
That's why I asked
unlike the DG.
If the recognition of May Day matches the reality of workers' face day.
We can discuss that. The details are in the, you say devil is in the details, but we can look at it. But today, we have gotten 6 national minimum wage laws that are in place. The current one is the highest in nominal terms, from 30 to 70. But in real terms, I agree with you, inflation, devaluation of Naira coming from where we are coming from, high cost of living. I listened to my comrade sister very well, but I think Bello are just coming now, but he will tell you that labor shouldn't be agonizing. We need to organize. And I think they've done very well to now put a new framework in place that instead of 5-year cycle of review of minimum wage, it has been reduced to 3 years. So next year, we are going for another review. I just heard the head of service, Jack Didi, very good progressive pronouncement, announcing a couple of new allowances for the working people. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has also restored gratuity, which was cancelled by the former President Olusegun Obasanjo. You know, where we moved from the old
to the contributory pension
to the contribution scheme in 2004, you know, and we resisted that. In fact, in my sector, 2 years after, we restored it back. That was that time in textile. But better late than never, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has restored it back. That civil servant now, when you retire, you collect 100% of your
1 year
total pay. Yeah, 100%, not part payment. You know, so it's struggle in progress. Pension scheme, because we should not only be talking of doing what, I mean, where we're at work, but life after work. You know, I was shocked that the pension arrears ballooned up to almost 700 billion, 870 billion. I mean, you know the way the scheme is working, automatically they destroy your pay. I hope you're on the contribution scheme.
Yes, of course.
They dissolve every month, but government or employers are supposed to pay the counterpart. Depending on how you negotiated it, will be 7.5, 7.5, I think 10% now. But for a long time, federal government had not paid the arrears. Well, again, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has cleared the arrears, 875 billion, you know, accrued pension arrears had been paid. And the new DG, headed by a woman, she's doing very well, very active. They've also raised the bar to say no pensioner will receive less than prevailing minimum rate. I mean, well, minimum wage. You know, the contribution scheme is about what you contributing that you get, but we could also raise the bar very well. So all what I'm saying is that there are still more things to be done. But the tradition of labor is not to lament. But what today shows is that labor creates wealth. We must dignify labor. In fact, I've argued that, and I did so in my reflection today, that we should make sure that labor issues determine the next elections. And what are the labor issues? Job creation, job security. And I'm happy President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in spite of the revenue challenges, never opted for the least resistance. You know, there was again under Obasanjo, retrenchment, downsizing, and things were not as worse as this, but this government has retained jobs. In fact, more jobs have been created in public service. I mean, you have the new South, these development commissions. There are a lot of government agencies that have been created, net fund, can count them. I mean, 3 years ago, I think we were doing some survey in my institute, close to about 800,000 public civil servants. Now it has gone to about 1.2 million. And we shouldn't take jobs for granted, because it's only those who have jobs who can collect whether minimum or maximum wage. But there's still a lot to be done. I agree very well. We talk of ease of doing business. Well, what of ease of working, ease of living? I mean, it's really tough. I can imagine what working men and women are looking for. But today gives a platform for us to engage with our employers, our government, to make things work. I mean, NTA couldn't be the way it is now if all of you are not working day and night. But you deserve your pay, an adequate pay.
Adequate pay.
And
Thank you so much.
collective bargaining process. We can be on I mean, look at academic sector. 2009 agreement, it has become almost jinxed. But through the struggle of academic staff union, you know, backed up by the NSA and the government too, they've reached an agreement, you know, which put an end to the whole non-implementation. I mean, that agreement was very comprehensive. I think we discussed it on this platform. But that also raises new dimension, because I just heard from your new segment.
Yes, SANU and
SANU, even ASU is still saying there's a difference between signing an agreement and proper implementation. I think it's SANU and NASU, the non-academic staff. So, but, and their struggles, very legitimate. All we need to do is to put the machinery in place. But the way out of this, on the last note, my opening remark is that we must capacitate the Ministry of Labor. Ministry of Labor is the ministry, in fact, the oldest ministry. And by the way, I convey the greetings of my honorable minister to Nigerians through you on this occasion of this day. That's Dr. Muhammadu Gindadi. You know, so it's a ministry that's been managing some of those challenges, and they can do more. Well, we have to finance it. If you look at the ranking of the ministry, I mean, I'm quite disappointed that you give Ministry of, I don't want to mention other ministries, we have allocated so much money, but yet Ministry of Labor, which is the real thing, to create jobs. Look at the mission of Ministry of Labor is to create jobs, and not just jobs, decent work, jobs that are well paid for, secured, jobs whose pensions are guaranteed. So you need to compare. So how can you afford Ministry of Labor has the least budget? If you go to the United States, after White House, you are just moving, not even Treasury was close to its Department of Labor, because labor creates wealth and is the #1 resource that Nigeria is blessed with. We have the largest labor market in Africa, almost about 80 million workforce that should be motivated to be productive and build this great nation.
All right, thank you, Comrade Isa Arimo, for your opening remarks. You have made so many valid points, talking about the fact that we should celebrate May Day, we should celebrate Workers' Day, and of course not take it for granted. You also talk about the Ministry of Labor, but of course the labor unions also have a role to play in ensuring that workers are adequately protected, whether financially or otherwise. And joining us now for the conversation is Comrade Bello Ismail, Deputy General Secretary, Nigeria Labour Congress. Many thanks for joining us, sir.
Yes, it's my pleasure to be here this morning.
All right. We'd like our viewers to know they can be part of this conversation. We'd like workers to send us messages, what it is that they want the government to do, what they also want to do, to make our country great. The number is on the screen. Feel free to send your SMS or WhatsApp messages, and we'll be glad to read them, and our guest would definitely respond. So, Comrade Bello Ismail, I think my first question to you would be what the NLC is doing as regards the state of the Nigerian worker. I just want to know, is the NLC satisfied with the state of the Nigerian worker on this day, May Day 2026?
Well, maybe to answer your question is to look at the theme of this year's May Day, which is insecurity, poverty, and decent work. And some of the elements of decent work, my comrade DJ has already highlighted some of them. It's important that job creation is at the heart of dignity for working people. If there are jobs, because there are pillars for decent work. One of them is job creation. The second is fundamental principles and rights at work. It's important for working people to have the right to freedom of association, to have the right to collective bargaining. Another pillar is important to have social protection, contribution, gratuity, access to health care, and name them. Another important pillar is dialogue, the opportunity to engage employer, to engage government at all tiers. And interestingly, in 2022, the ILO added a 5th dimension on the occupational health and safety. And when we talk about work and the condition of work, we are not just looking at what happens with government employees. We are not looking at what happens in parastatals. We are looking at the economy-wide activities in private sector, in the informal economy. And let's take the aspect of job and why the NSC can't be happy that a country like Nigeria, about 93% of working people are in the informal sector. And that's even the official statistics. And about 85% of those in the formal sector are self-employed. So these categories, definitely when you speak about decent work, a lot is going in the negative for them. And that's why you have the enormous poverty that you have. Because where the element of decent work is missing in an economy, the chances are that people get poorer. The question of pay is not there. Opportunity for social protection is missing. Opportunity for guaranteed and safety condition is missing. So you can imagine the level of exposure for working people. And that's why the focus of NSC this year is about what is happening in the country and how that is further aggravating or burdening workforce. You look at states like Zamfara, you look at states like Katsina, like Kebbi, a lot of farmers can't go to work, a lot of teachers can't go to school, a lot of local government employees can't go to their local government secretariat to work. So that's the issue in focus, and that government need to step up this area to ensure that at least people have opportunity to have opportunity to earn income, to earn fair wages, to earn decent income. I think that's the focus this year. But for us as Congress, it's a very tough period. The committee just spoke about minimum wage, and Nigerians know what has happened between 2024 and 2026, when the minimum wage was enacted, was negotiated. The parameters have dramatically changed. Yes, it is true that we have shortened the span of negotiation, the span of agreement, but the speed with which the economic parameters change as heightened. So it's becoming a bit imperative that we return back to renegotiate a new minimum wage that will be fair to assuage the deteriorating condition of the Nigerian workers. We have a situation where a lot of workers cannot even commute to work 5 days a week. A lot. And the other danger, because when I talk about the decent work and the imperative of the fundamental principles of the right to freedom of association and collective bargaining, is that in many workplaces, employers are not even allowing workers to form union. And so NSC is doing a lot in that area to ensure that that fundamental right of workers to freedom of association is respected. So that's an unseen aspect of the work of the NSC. People see the NSC only maybe when we protest about national policies, about national other national issues. But people don't see us when we engage employers in textile, when we engage employers in the oil and gas, when we engage employers in other different sectors of the economy, about the right of workers to organize, about daily health and safety challenges. Because of the economy and the focus for workers on improving wages, on improving their conditions, a lot of attention has also shifted away from the basic issues of health and safety. And so unions are also stepping up our effort in raising awareness and getting employers to be accountable in that area, because a lot of workers are dying from inadequate health and safety provisioning, from exposure to increasing exposure to health hazards. And where unions are not, that's one major issue. The other important area also relates to the question of health care for working people. People fall sick in the past because unions engage. Employers take out that responsibility. Government also match that responsibility with public provisioning for health care. But now it's very difficult for even sick workers to go to hospital, high cost of drugs, and all of those. So those issues are there, and it is only possible where unions have the freedom to organize, the freedom to engage employers to be able to address these inadequacies. How
successful have these engagements been? I mean, you talk about efforts being put by NLC, because I mean, a lot of Nigerian workers feel that, well, the NLC is distant, you know, from the plight of the worker.
NLC can't be distant from the plight of the workers. I've told you the bulk of the working people are even outside of the focus of engagement. And so that can only happen within the basis of the framework of broader social dialogue, which the NSC feel that is not adequate under this administration, under this regime, that government needs to be more open to discussing these critical issues affecting the larger populace. But in terms of the daily engagement with separate employers, our affiliates are busy throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month, engaging on issues of pay, on issues of promotion, on issues of safety, or several issues that affect working people. So you can't take that away from labor. And it is NSC that people want to see. But who is NSC? NSC are the different legs of the unions in the different sectors of the economy.
All right.
And they do what they do a lot with our support for education, with our support for the organizing effort.
All right. Thank you, Comrade Bello. Thank you very much. Let me get back to Ada. And I'm wondering, how different is the experience of workers in the private sector compared to those in the public sector?
Okay, for me, the private sector is more organized. More organized in the sense that they are privately owned, so their policies are quite different from the government policies. Government policies are more political, if you ask me.
You don't have to do 3 years to get a promotion, for
You
instance.
understand? So the private sectors are performance-driven. The private sectors are goal-oriented. They are results-oriented. But you know, in public sector, you just find that things are stereotype. You know, if the policy said 3 years, 4 years promotion, whether you work, you don't work, 3 years, 4 years, you're promoted. But in private sectors, they are not that way. You have to work your earning, and you have to show performance, capacity, and experience in order to earn whatever you are being given. So the difference are quite enormous, and that brings us down to policies. The public sector policies somersault on a daily basis. You come today, they will bring this. Before you finish actualizing it, they bring another one. You can see the head of service brought out the PSR. And before you say it, all the contents or parameters of this PSR has not been executed. And tomorrow, you will see an addendum or a review or a gazette of the PSR. Meanwhile, the original document has not been fully implemented, and that brings chaosness and confusion in the industry or in the sector. But that is not same with the public sector. I, for once, worked in a bank, and I understand that every public business has a mind of profit, has a mind of progression, has a mind. They actually, you know, have their targets per year, and that's why every year they give you a target. As you're achieving it, they're increasing the targets as you're achieving. So they keep you on your toes, and they make you work and think, and equally expand your horizon in the sense that you need to be, you know, up to date on daily basis to be able to run the business. But you know, the government sector, they say, is a national cake. So whatever it is, everybody has come with their knife and their plates to cut as much as they want, to eat and to feed. And that's why today some people are richer, some people are poorer. There are some people that their monies can pay a whole paracetamol what they earn in a month. And there are some people that can't even find transportation from one point to another. So many people are trekking because the hike in fuel price has increased the transportation system. So they can't even afford it. You could talk about minimum wage. How much is minimum wage? If you take minimum wage to what it was before the minimum wage, you find out that what we are earning is better than what the minimum wage is giving us, because inflation has eaten into it. Fuel was 600 and something naira. Today it is 1,300 and something. So how do you compare this? It is over 100% increase. So assuming you were earning 30,000 naira and buying fuel at 600 naira, today you are earning 70,000 naira, and you're buying at 1,300. What difference does it make? For me, it's just a brand. We are just rebranding our strategy. We're just rebranding capacity. We're just rebranding our speech to make it look good. But if you look at it in the real sense of it, honestly speaking, we have not moved from the point where we are. We're just going in circles.
In other words, when the NLC, of course, which typically drives discussions on wage increase and all of that, does it work for the private sector?
Yeah, it works for the private sector, but when they go home, they internalize their structure. You know, one is that it's a different thing, because if I have a board who has invested in a business and they're looking for, you know, profits or return on investment, and what will you tell the person? So what you speak outside is not what they do inside. I, for once, at least, I have gone through that rank in the private sector. So what we come outside, you know, everybody is okay. But when they come inside, they will give you their terms and conditions. And if you don't meet it, you use the door. So it is not
It's more difficult to implement
yes,
in the private
sector. So they already have a structure that works for them.
Well, the private sector, some would say, happens to be better in some ways than those in the public sector. But you see, I would like you to speak about the challenges that women face as workers in this country. That's one area that is not brought to the limelight as much as possible. I'm glad that you're a woman and you're part of the labor movement. You've spoken about the financial limitation for the Nigerian worker. That's general, both for men and women. But there are issues in terms of intimidation, sexual harassment, lack of promotion because of being women. Women who go on maternity and all of that, the issues that they face as a result of all of that, and also the number of hours they can put into work because of family pressure. Speak about what labor is doing, or what you think should be done, to encourage, or if you like, make women more comfortable in the workplace.
Okay, that is what we're advocating for. And in Pengasang Women Commission, where I, sit as a leader, it has been on our front burner in the sense that women, what we asked for is a fair playing ground. You find this, I'm looking for the right choice of word. These reservations, about women, that we are fragile, we can't do this, we can't do that, or she's pregnant, she's nursing a child.
But aren't you?
Yeah, we are, but pregnancy is not sickness.
True.
So if we can be pregnant and we work actively at home, why can't we be pregnant and work actively in the workplace?
But the women see it that way, though, because a woman is pregnant, and so, you have to pity that woman. I don't know how you look at it.
No. It is you that is pitying the woman. There is no woman that you give a tax that does not deliver. And women are dynamic in nature. Women are multitasking. Even while they are pregnant, they can still back a child, they can still hold a bag, and still go to market and sell it at the same time. So they have every capacity and strength to drive anything that is given into their hands. And that brings me into the recent happenings I have actually visualized. I noticed that these days, men have actually realized the importance of women and the potentials they carry. And in business, giving a woman the opportunity strives the business, because that nurturing spirit of a woman, that's dynamic nature of a woman makes that business you give her, or that responsibility or tax you give her, strive a lot. Take, for instance, I look at all the banks. They have turned around of giving women their leadership roles. Why? Because they believe that women are more prudent. They believe that women are more productive. They believe that women are developers. They are investors. Women invest in children, and the children come up well. Likewise, you. If your mother did not invest in you, you wouldn't have been sitting down here. So if you give a woman that opportunity, she will turn everything around. And that's take me again, even in the oil and gas sector, women are taking the leadership roles. If you go to boards, if you go to management, key roles of the organizations, women are sitting in the boards, because what they bring on the table is very innovative, very transformational, very dimensional.
More than the men.
Not more than we are, because we are not in competition. We're actually collaborating. But what we bring on the table is actually scrutiny, meticulousness, detail to tax. So if every one of us, because we are all mothers, we are all sisters, we are all daughters, and every woman, a seed you give a woman will germinate into a full-grown crop, or even a plantation, if you ask me. And that is why we are appealing and advocating that women should be given a special seat, even in the parliament, as in the bill we're advocating. Because I believe that if a woman is given an opportunity to rule this country, trust me, you see, the country will flourish. The country will move better than we are today.
We'll consider that. Thank you.
So
let me get to Comrade Isarabu. You've been a part of the labor movement for a long time. And your experience, would serve you to be able to tell us, for instance, what are the structural problems, that continue to hold back improvements in working conditions, you would say?
Well, I think from the discussion so far, it's clear that May Day, the 1st of May, is just to draw the attention to the, primary roles of workers in national development. But if you ask me, every day should be May Day. Workers' Day. Because it's every day, some cleaners are working every day. I see you on TV. Nobody's working. My sister has also show how working women are multi-skilled. Bringing up babies, and at the same time you need to work. So I think labor market issues are very vast, so that we can keep on discussing them. But a quick one I just want to rub in, talking of structural constraint, even though we so much lament about the constraints, I think we should talk on what we can do outside the box. She raised something about women, and I think you kept on interrogating whether women, when they are pregnant, well, I'm not sure which.
Yeah, because some, when you see,
Victor,
you just have
we
to.
We need pregnancy because we need future workers, and future workers can only come when women reproduce us. So I think that's settled. Almighty God designed it in a way that human beings will be extinct if we are not reproducing. So it has been recognized that in the world of work, that pregnancy is a right, it's fundamental right. We should nurture women who are pregnant. In fact, there's a law that has been adopted. I think President Muhammad Buhari signed it. We now have paternity leave.
Yeah.
So, Victor, you are not to live.
I didn't benefit it, unfortunately.
Wait. It's not, you never can say.
You can still benefit.
You never can say.
I'm retired.
So the idea is that it cannot be Ada's burden alone. That she has a baby, the husband has a right to paternity leave. I think 14 days.
Yes.
To assist the woman, to work. So I don't think we should throw the thing back to the women. In fact, we should rather recognize them. And in other climate, nursing mothers are given better privileges. Although we just mark International Women's Day, today's Workers' Day.
Yeah.
So I don't think we should overflow the point on the women, which the way we have discussed it. But I think Bello raised a point about occupational health and safety. And just on Tuesday, we marked the International Safety Day as declared by International Labour Organization. And the statistics, Irene, is very staggering. That annually, 2.9 work-related deaths are reported globally. 2.9 million work-related deaths due to accident, electrical accident, falls at work. We have not talked of even in case of disease have been recorded. So I think we have to also raise awareness about not making workplace to become mortuaries. And Ministry of Labour has been doing very well to pay some surprise visits to different factories, especially in the private sector. That's why I'm not as I used to also be in private sector. The way you are so a little bit celebrating private sector elegance now. In fact, public sector workers are more secure than private sector.
Sure.
I mean, you work in the bank before. How many of them are unionized?
It's true.
They are casual workers. These banks declare billions of naira, yet they pay workers less than minimum wage. So I think we should get it clear that public sector still set the standard. We can debate how the public sector is behaving. I mean, working in terms of productivity, but freedom of association, freedom of assembly. Even this paternity. How many private sector we take workers who are pregnant? In fact, they will not even employ you. We talk of I think occupational health and safety is a serious one that we should take serious. And there are laws. All we need to do is to enforce them. But I think unions will have to play more role, and I think below, we used to do that a lot in the private sector, I mean textile, because private employers, they want to make profit, and they can do so at anybody's expenses. But we have to make a point that welfare of the workers, very, very important. You know, workers that are injured cannot be productive. Yeah. You know, in fact, there was one disaster in a factory, I used to remember, in Bangladesh, Raina fire disaster, I mean, in which women were burnt, almost about 5,000 workers. I don't think we should arrive at that. So we need to be more safety conscious.
All right, many thanks, Comrade Saramo. Let's get to Comrade Bello Ismail now. We've spoken so much about what needs to be done, but I want to know what the NLC is doing as regarding states that are not doing the needful. We're talking about new minimum wage, 70,000 naira. I understand that some states actually went above that, but there's still some states that, you know, have not measured up, you know, in some ways. What is the NLC doing?
You know, it's a very difficult call, a very painful call, that as we debate inadequacy of 70,000, you still find employers in the economy who pay far less than 70,000. And painfully so, with states that have gotten double inflow
this time
from federal government. And that's what made the leadership of Congress to advise us states, rather than mark this May Day with a march, it should be marked with a protest. Because it's completely unacceptable that any state government, any local government, any arm of government will violate a law as important as minimum wage. That's for the public sector, but also more difficult for the private sector workers. Take, for instance, the private security guards. I see that possibly NTA has some, those who wear uniforms. And when I speak about the fundamental rights, as far more important than even the wage question, the right of the workers themselves to belong to the union, to form their own association, because they are their own policemen. They are the one who will police the work environment, whether these protective labor laws are observed or whether they are observed in abeyance. So where there are no union, employers get away with impunity. So that's an important area that the NSC is really focusing at. Every workplace should have a union. And we have a lot of new workplaces where employers are fighting and repelling the organizing of the union. So NSC is supporting workers in that area to ensure that their fundamental right to freedom of association and collective bargaining is asserted. For the states, the state councils of the NSC have been so empowered to take on these issues headlong, because it's completely unacceptable.
It's almost 2 years.
We also have some states that, for instance, Ogun, gave additional award of 10,000 to mitigate the current challenges. We know times are difficult. Things are difficult already, but the international dimension with the Israeli-Iranian war and conflict pushing up costs
of transportation
around the world, not just in Nigeria, created a new crisis of living. And so we find some reasonable, responsible employers in discussion with their unions to mitigate either by provisioning of transport or by provisioning of additional food subsidy.
Comrade, I'm just thinking, you say that you have mandated states that have not met the minimum wage. You have mandated the workers to go on a protest today.
Yep.
I'm asking, protests, strikes, have they done anything, you know, to change the narrative for the Nigerian worker? It's almost 2 years since implementation.
Maybe what you don't know, each time you see us on the street, whether occupying the National Assembly or making a protest, what are we out there for? What we are trying to do is to get the other party back to the table. We are not sleeping on the street, but we are telling the other party you are not doing what you are supposed to do. And the moment they are able to come to the table, when two people come to the table,
they have an agreement.
You have some kind of understanding. You may not solve all the problems, but you begin to develop a framework to address the issues that has taken the workers to the street.
But don't you think that NLC didn't stand up for those workers, considering the fact there's almost 2 years since implementation of the new minimum which you're talking about, and some states are still lagging behind? You already said it's a law, so they're supposed to obey that law. So why is the NLC not taking up its action earlier before now?
What you don't know, when things get to a boiling point is when you don't see all the processes, all the discussions, all the engagements that go on behind the scene. It's only when people get to a point that this is completely unacceptable, then you begin to see a fight. Because there are also processes that are involved. People are discussing, okay, we'll do it next month. Okay, we'll do it 2 months' time. So you give people that benefit of doubt. But what is important is that if whatever time they are doing it, they must do so in payment of the arrears, of the accumulated arrears from the effective date for which the agreement has been made. That's what is important.
All right, thank you. We have messages coming in from our viewers, as you would expect, and I'll just take the ones that I have here. And this one is from Dr. Kwajafa, DG Employees Association. And he says, kudos, Comrade Saremu, always there for the workers. All right, thank you. This other one is from Abdullahi Adokwe Ladan. Good morning, Nigeria. I congratulate all on this special day of celebration, while calling on all to support the present administration in its quest to better our lives. Happy Workers' Day. Thank you, too. And from Moses, greetings and happy Workers' Day. Our issue is not about minimum wage, but rather bringing down the cost of living, fuel, water, cement, healthcare. Let these things be affordable. That's from Moses. And finally from me here is from Ola Abayomi. Good morning. Life after 35 years of service should be taken seriously, and pensions for Nigerian workers should be reviewed upward. Nigerian workers are finding it difficult to meet their family responsibilities, feeding, health, and children's school fees. Comrade, what are your responses to that? These last two that are not commendations or just contributions.
You know, I will keep saying this and I will emphasize it. One of the issues that we have with the current administration is that it's not talking enough. They talk on the basis of what they think they are doing. We've managed to stabilize the economy. We've managed to improve the economy. No doubt about that. But how has that impacted the working people? And the only way you can create that balance, that you can get balance between what you think you are doing in terms of the economic statistics, is also to look at the social impact. How does that affect the quality of life of your people? How does that affect access to healthcare? How does that affect the quality and access to education?
Yeah, just like Moses is
so those are very important questions, and those are questions that labor alone can't answer. Those are questions that has to be answered in conjunction with productive engagement and productive dialogue with government. And we believe that is not happening enough. We want to see more openness, more dialogue with government, that we can be able to influence policy decisions in a manner that it will impact more Nigerians. We would like to see more investment, for instance, in healthcare. Primary healthcare, some changes in that direction, but we would like to see more investment in that area. Yes. We would like to see more investment in education. Yes, it's good that they set up an F fund, but it's about providing loans. What kind of investment is happening in our tertiary education, in our public schools? Are there opportunities for improvement of the life of the workers in those sectors? Yes, they gave us a 40% increase. It was commendable that the issues around the 2009 agreement, somehow they found a solution to it. But we know, given the way the country is, for a professor to hand 750,000, it's still grossly inadequate to have a motivated university teacher. So all of those questions need to be addressed in a manner that we can restore confidence in public education. We can restore access to quality healthcare for majority of our people. Life in the 70s and the 80s, the committee spoke about the textile sector. We had the situation in the past where social housing were even provided for workers by employers, by government. The government of Jakande and all of that. So we would like to see a return to that, to social housing, mass social housing. We'd like to see more investment in healthcare so that things that will impact the general public. Mind you, I spoke about the larger number of workers, because we don't look at workers only in terms of public servants, only in terms of those in MDA, only in terms of only in organized private sector. We said 93% of working people are in the formal economy. Uber drivers, boat drivers, farmers, vulcanizers, hairdressers. So all those categories of people, they also need a lot of social programming that the only way it can benefit people is for the people themselves to be engaged in how those things come to light. So we would like to see more openness.
Now, you like to see these things, but what are you doing to make it happen? Now, when NLC goes on strike, for instance, to say, okay, we want improvement in wages, you find that a lot of people, which you have admitted, will say, look, they are doing it for just a small, segment of the people, workers who are in the public sector. Now, how does it impact us? So what is the NLC doing? What is Labour doing to see that more people are impacted and to see that these things you want to see?
Okay, let me give you an example. Take the question of social protection. You know that can only happen when the three legs involved in the industrial relations system come to the table: the employers, the government, and labor. And of course, we have some international partners who support that process of thinking and developing a framework that will work for all. ILO has been in that process, and then we are bringing together informal workers, because increasingly we have many associations of informal workers joining the NSA. So when they join the NSA, they expect the NSA to be able to address their issues of access to credit, of social protection, and all of that. Now, there will be a discussion around that, bringing these informal workers together, what will work in terms of also developing a pension arrangement for informal workers. That's something that the NSA is doing, but it's not something that you see displayed in the open or that we comment about, because those are developing frameworks, developing processes, and when we find that the right support and we bring these associations together, the ideas that come from this table goes into policy processes, and hopefully the workers in that segment can benefit.
All right, Comrade,
the same way, when you also talk about health and safety conditions, for informal workers, some level of protection. The ministry can invest, can inspect, they can do this, they can do that. But for the bulk of informal workers, there is no form of security in that area. The NSITF, or the ECA, is supposed to provide some kind of protection. We're also engaging this informal group and informal organizations, and hopefully with the NSITF, to see whether some pillar of framework can also be developed in that area. So it's work in progress. It's something that we need to continually do, and also hope that what kind of conversation we have internally with the support of these agencies and institutions can feed into the policy process.
All right, comrades. All right, welcome back. It's still Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. Our guests are very much with us. We're talking about Workers' Day this year, and we have more messages. Some have been taken earlier. This one is from Mohammed Awal Musa Afamai, Greenwall Observers Limited, Kano, and it reads, my questions are, how has the current minimum wage impacted Nigerian workers' purchasing power? Are local businesses in Nigeria finding enough skilled labor to grow? And finally, what is the biggest financial hurdle facing young workers in Nigeria today? Another one says, good morning, NTN and your guests. I'm a state civil servant. Labor should be more proactive in following up issues that affect the workers positively. What is Labor doing about state governments that fail to pay new minimum wage years after it was passed into law? Okoroma Godwin Chooks from Erema in Rivers State. Another one says, I want to say a million thanks to the organizer of this program. May Almighty God bless you all. The problems some of us civil servants are going through are many. After salary increments, to pay the arrears becomes a problem. Our arrears for many months are still hanging. I agree with you. Thank you very much, Adejo. All right, another one says, behind every great nation are its greatest workers, and no job is inferior or inherently superior to the other. There is dignity in labor and every worker matters, and the laborer is worthy of prompt payment. Have a happy new month. God bless Nigeria. Nandam Wuye from Jos. Another one says, Happy Workers' Day to all workers all over the world. May we continue to reap the fruits of our labor. Amen. Alex from Plateau State sent in that. Another one says, what is your plan for the retirees? Always fighting for increment for workers and not thinking of those that are retired. Are they not going to the same markets? Please, you need to start working on how to come to their aid. And finally, government should improve welfare of workers annually to align with economic realities and challenges. That's from Ben Ozo in Enugu. I think you responded earlier. You're still going to respond because some of these issues, of course, affect you. I like our comrade leader here, to respond to some of these comments that have been made. Talking about arrears that never get paid. I mean, it's...
I think although we have been discussing, including the responses from the viewers, point to the importance of promoting knowledge about labor and labor issues. And that's the mandate of the Institute, which I represent, National Institute for Labor Studies, and named after Makele Modu, #1 labor man. I think it is clear. I mean, I listened to your discussion with Comrade Bello. I mean, it's extremely unacceptable for any employer. In fact, it's criminal that illegally permissible minimum wage you refuse to implement.
2 years after.
Yeah, even 1 year, 1 minute after. It's the law. I mean, what makes minimum wage different from other wages is that it's backed up by law. I mean, Bello, you know very well that the law also has provision for sanctions for non-compliance. You can prosecute the employer. And in our own case, it's unacceptable now. Because one thing President Bola Ahmed has done is to make available money arising from subsidy to the states. So the states have no excuse at all. No state has any excuse at all to say you. In fact, their problem is how to spend the money. But if there are some states that are paying, why will any state give excuses? I know Lagos is even paying beyond the legally permissible. Kwara State, Kano, Edo, Kebbi, a couple of states are doing so. So it's unacceptable. You know why it's so dangerous? Is that after Almighty God, what citizen has, including worker, is his government. Because the government is not just to pay as an employer, federal government, state government, but governments must compel private employers to pay. Now, what's your moral authority if you don't pay minimum wage? To ask Mobil, Chevron to pay. And you'll be shocked. These big corporations may not want to pay. They want slave labor. So it's criminal. That's why the law puts it there. And I think, Bello, we can't give any excuse. I mean, we need to really prosecute them, name them, and shame them. In fact, damn them. And make sure Ministry of Labor takes proper inventory, to enforce it. Because first we are discussing that
it's not sufficient.
It's not sufficient. And now something is legal and you don't pay. I mean, you can say you are not going to pay your other bills, which they are paying. They pay contractors, they pay. Why not the working people and the rest of them? And still on minimum wage, I also think we need to do more thinking. And that's why I say we need to promote knowledge about what is going on in the world of work, which my institutes are valuable to educate government, employers of labor, and co. Britain was never part of minimum wage structure globally until 1989. You know there used to be one prime minister, Margaret Thatcher, and a woman too, and at times so women could be very ruthless when it comes to policy. She was opposed to any idea of minimum wage, and until there was a big riot, and then they set up a commission. They now realized, and they joined in 1989. We started in 1981, as I've told you. Now, but they've moved on. In UK, minimum wage is reviewed every year. 2nd of April, they've gotten a what do you call it, a commission that will look at all the indexes. They've also disaggregated minimum wage for working women is different, for other workers. They are for apprentices, they are for students, you know, they also pay their per hour.
Yes.
You know, you can talk of like £8 per hour, you know, and they do the calculation. So I think we need that, because minimum wage really is for the minimum, it's for the lowest and legally permissible. That means to really stop workers, you know, falling into income poverty. You know, so we need to also do that. Well, I'm happy that we've gotten a breakthrough now from 5 years to 3 years cycle, but we should even go further. Beyond that, so that the things are adjusted. So after that minimum, then you do regular collective bargaining, which is already going on. And as Bello said, many sectors are signing that, you know, as usual. And I think it's the public sector now that we should bring that to bear. Because how do you have 2009 agreement, and we're still fighting over its implementation? And that's not acceptable. Why do you have proper collective bargaining process? But that requires knowledge and education. And labor markets, it's a specialized field. I always watch you very well, NTA. I mean, this is my channel of destination. I mean, I watch you a lot. But you spend so much time on capital market, finance market. You must create for labor market. It's a big thing, you know, because no market, including capital market, can work if working men and women are not well motivated. And then that comes to the last point I want to raise about the theme for the year, very timely, on the issue of security. The linkage with labor and poverty, you know, even the national security discourse, the way we handle them is fine, but we also forget that security men and women, whether it's police, soldiers, the secret services, they are workers in uniform. They are working men and women. Now, how do you get people to fight to protect you when they too they are not secure, income-wise? You need to get the picture of what police is going through. I mean, I have an idea, but, you know, and I think it's time to also address their case. You know, the NSAS protest, even those youths, their last demand, I think they have a 5-point demand also, was to make a case for welfare for the police, and President Mohamed Buhari also walked into that. And my take on that, and I've shared this with you, my comrades in the labor movement, is that we should have to create a platform even for police to be unionized, with the proviso that they won't join strike, protest, but there will be a framework to address their concern in an organized manner. In UK, they are. South Africa, they are. Because if they don't carry their problem to negotiate with their respective employers, I don't know what they call them, you know, they negotiate by the road, which you know better. With all the consequences. But on a serious note, I think we should. But the last one, and I hope the team will be well articulated very well, is that we should also recognize what they are doing. Because we talk too much about security. It's fine, you know, where criminals, bandits have few successes, we magnify them. And I think the media will do that a lot, you know, because that's what these guys are looking for. But when when things are peaceful, nobody reports them the way they should be, which means the security people are also people working. But on a last note, we must compliment Irene. All this kinetic fight with, I don't want to even use the word non-kinetic, we have complementary socio-economic policies. You can have 1 million police men and women to be employed, but you have 40 million unemployed youths. They will overrun them. So we need to not only govern the places, put factories there, let there be work for the young men and women, you know, make sure they abandon arms, whether light or big, and give them the tools to work in the factories. Again, there was also a time when we were labor-intensive industries. In textile in Kaduna, employer used to call us right from Saturday, Sunday, begging us to look for those who work in the factory. Weaver spinners. We are running 3 shifts, at a point 4 shifts, where you see them moving out of Kakuri, Nasarawa, Bompai during the closing time. Even NMPC. It was a big thing in Kaduna when the refinery was working. Now, where have they disappeared to? No work. And you think we can possibly be at peace? So we have to complement good jobs security men and women are doing with much more socioeconomic development. And this way, state government must be on duty, because every crime is local. you know, every unemployed youth is in the local, is in the community. In fact, factories are supposed to be in the community. I mean, Dangote did a good job. See the way he transformed Lekki. Should have been the swamps for bandits. Now to the largest refinery in the world, 650. That's the way to go. So if a private investor can do that, with the enabling environment created by government too must, you know, put all these things in thinking cap to make sure. And when you get those guys, in fact, I just had the news, I think it was yesterday, and I want to commend our sector unions in the petroleum sector. I just had Dangote Group, they've recalled those engineers, you know, that were sacked over unionization to come back. I think that's a very good May Day gift, which we should celebrate. But the lesson for us also that even union power, I think we should exercise them in a constructive way. If you have a new investor that just coming, there is what we call just transition. You know, you really don't do things also with big banks so that it also leads to lots of jobs. Unions have been doing very well. They are partners in progress, but we should make sure that we sustain them so that in the process of unionizing, we also don't record unnecessary consequences.
Thank you. Thank you.
Happy May Day. Thank you.
As we get into the final stretch of this program, let me get back to Ada. I mean, you've talked about the private sector being people in business, needs to recoup their investment, make profit. But how do you balance demands for better wages with the realities of business survival, especially for SMEs?
Okay, for me, the SMEs, of course, they are upcoming, and they need platform and encouragement to be able to sustain their businesses. And if we look at the country today and what the economy is saying, you find out that many of them are actually struggling. They are trying their best to. A lot of factors are affecting them. Many of them are importers. Many of them, have so many.
Rely on power.
Yes, factors that are actually, affecting their business negatively, and as such, dropping, the interest or the goal, they used to establish these businesses.
So how do you strike? How do you get the balance from them?
So what I think the balance we need to do is just to have a good policy in place. That's number one. Government needs to factor them into policy decisions that they make. Again, you find out that power is one thing that drives industrialization. And if there is no power, of course, every business would be very, very cost operating, will have a very high operating cost. So in balancing it, we need to consider them, especially if in importation, they should be giving some waivers, in duties that they pay to bring in some of their items. That's number one. Number two is the solar energy that has been introduced, as an alternative source. I learned in the news that in one of the states, solar now is being commercialized, as in you have to pay to install solar. That is free, a natural free cost, energy that you derive from the sun. And I don't understand that. Because everybody is looking for revenue. Everybody is looking for ways of enriching the coffers of their state's government treasury. But if you look at it, it's affecting every product that is being produced. And I said, for me, it is policy that will balance whatever issues, or cost of production that they are facing. My brother talked about the textile industries. If you go to the north now, many textile industries has been folded. Why? Because they cannot be sustained. To run it is another problem. And if you look, the Nigerian wax that we are all enjoying before at 3,000, 2,000. Today, many women can't even buy Nigerian wax. Nobody can clothe themselves. So the government needs to look into all these things and find a way to accommodate everybody in one cup.
All right, many thanks, Sada. Let's round off now. Comrade Ade Bello Ismail. As we round off the conversation, my question to you is, have unions become too close to political elites to effectively advocate for workers? And what exactly is the future that NLC is looking forward to for the Nigerian worker?
Well, to be close to someone is to be able to engage that person productively and to be able to win gains from that person. So, to take it literally. But the world of work is about the union and the employer. And we must be close. We must be on the table regularly to find solutions to the challenges that face working people, whether in the private sector, whether in the public sector. I've been opportune to be on the two sides. But what I see is that the notion of dialogue has taken more root in the private sector. It's not as if the private sector employers are benevolent, but the culture of engaging, of discussing on all issues, from pay to production, to health and safety, to several issues in the workplace, to discipline, to grievance, is discussed. But that culture is still not as strong as we would expect in the public service. And that would lead me to the question of the role of the state. The bulk of the danger that we face emanates from the adoption of the neoliberal framework of doing things. Before, we had the state having a big stake in a lot of important spheres of the economy, in education, in industry. The companies that Comrade made allusion to in Kaduna, Northern state government invested massively, heavily to ensure that those industries keep running. But we have a situation now where the state shouldn't partake. This should be privatized. That should be privatized. Labour was opposed to it. They had their way. We can see the consequence. So we need to find a way to ensure that the state step up its game in defense of citizens, in terms of prioritizing its investment in critical sectors of the economy and providing particularly the energy question that she made question.
So what's the future that you see for the Nigerian worker?
The future is is about hope, and it's about building our organization to ensure that we continue to defend the interests of our people. That's where the future is for us, to strengthen the capacity, the power of our organization to be able to engage, because the future is. So
should the Nigerian workers still trust the unions to do the needful in terms of their welfare and everything that concerns them?
The union is their union. The workers are the union. The unions are the workers. So that's the hope of the working people, and it will remain so, because it is workers who own the organization. It's not for the leaders of the organization. It's not for Bello. It's not for a committee who used to be a general secretary. It's for the workers. And when the workers even feel that the leaders are not doing what they are supposed to do, they are in a position to box the leaders, to punch the leaders. And that was why the company was asking you, what are you doing? Because the union is for the working people. And the working people will at all time challenge their union to address their issues and to focus on their issues.
All right. I think that's a fine point to leave the conversation. The workers should challenge the union to do the needful. And of course, the union should challenge government, and as well as other employers to do the needful. Thank you so much, Comrade Bello Ismail, Deputy General Secretary, Nigeria Labour Congress. Thank you so much for being our guest, and of course, happy Workers' Day to you. Comrade Issa Remudiji and CEO Michael Omodu, National Institute of Labour Studies. Indeed, a pleasure always to have you. Okay. Ada Umbonoso, Chairperson, Pegasus Women Commission, and Security Trade Union Congress of Nigeria, TUC Women Commission. Thank you so much, ma'am. And of course, I hope to see more women, take up the front seats when it comes to labor movement. So that's our package. What's the labor chant to end the conversation?
Forward ever, backward never.
Forward
Solidarity
ever.
forever.
So,
Yeah, solidarity.
Workers united.
Yes, we can never defeat it.
okay, we can.
Women chanting that our gender, our strength.
All right, I'm Yan Ray John. He's Victor Azu.